So I just got back from my trip to Myanmar, and I kind of want to talk about what I feel like is the elephant in the room, which is the Muslim situation there with the Rohingya people. And I had so many different friends and people ask me about it, so I want to talk about that today and just share my experience with you. I'm no type of expert on the situation, on anything. I'm just a traveler who went to Myanmar to tell you what I saw and heard. And by the way, to also give you a sense of where I was, I crossed the border between Thailand into Myanmar. Then I went to a small town, then to Yangon, then up to Bagan, and then back down to Yangon. So the area where a lot of the problems are happening with the Rohingya people is definitely more northern than where I was. I was not near the border where the things are happening. I was definitely in other regions, but I wanted to talk about kind of the experience and what it was like. And even before I got there, when I was even thinking about going to Myanmar, I was really nervous about going because when I saw on the news what was being reported, it made me afraid. Even in a selfish way, to be really honest with you, I was afraid for my own safety with going there because I thought, well, if I go to a country where people are being killed, any people, maybe I could be killed or harmed too. You know, I tend to feel like unless everyone's safe, maybe no one is safe, kind of a thing. Ultimately, I decided to go anyway because I spoke to some people, other travelers who'd recently gone, said they didn't have a problem, and also my visa was running out, and it was cheaper to go there than some other places, and I'd been to Bagan once before, and I wanted to kind of check it out again, so I decided to go, hoping and thinking that I would be okay. And even when I first crossed the border, I was actually really nervous because when I crossed the border into Myanmar, by the way, there were so many checkpoints. I felt like I crossed it by land, and even just driving through Myanmar, there were at least 3 different checkpoints where officials were there checking my passport and all this other stuff. So that also made me feel a little bit nervous, to be honest. I felt a little bit on edge when traveling there. But once I got to Yangon, I was actually really surprised by what I saw because when I was in Yangon, at one point I was actually staying at a hostel that's right next to a Muslim mosque. And when I would walk around the streets of Yangon, I saw people who were very obviously Muslims just working and living right next to people who were not. A lot of people, you know, are Buddhist, and I saw what I was seeing in Yangon was so different than what I was seeing on the news. And of course, these are different people, different cities, same country. But I honestly thought I wasn't going to see so many Muslims in Yangon. I thought that maybe there would be kind of a strange vibe also that I was going to witness. And certainly when I was in Yangon, it was not that way at all. You know, where I was staying, I would hear the call to prayer playing at the mosque and see people coming and going and worshiping and not seeming concerned in any way. And when I spoke to some locals about this and I asked them, like, listen, you know, like, what's kind of going on and whatever, and what people told me was that it wasn't just a religious issue. It wasn't just Muslims versus Buddhists and things like that, which is actually what I thought it was before I got there. And again, I'm not claiming to be any sort of expert on any level. There are issues in my own home country that are going on that are strange, that are pitting people against each other. But what they said was that it's not just Muslims versus Buddhists, that it's also a cultural issue, that these are people that Bangladesh wasn't claiming, that Myanmar wasn't claiming, and there's a whole host of issues that have been brewing for many years, disputes that have been ongoing for many years, and of course, this is not to excuse any sort of issue. I'm just framing the conversation, telling you what I heard when I was talking to people there about this issue, and but by the way, it was also a little bit shocking because I was talking to some people in Myanmar about this issue, and they were talking about the role that Facebook is playing in all of this. And they were saying how Facebook in Myanmar has become like a source of news, and that people also post their feelings on this issue on Facebook, which is obviously very public. And by the way, not everyone's views are so positive, as you might say. Some people were sort of fine with the killings, to be quite frank, which is really shocking and terrible to say. I feel awkward saying it, even though it's not my viewpoint, obviously, but that people were posting things on Facebook like in support of some of these activities. And then of course there were other people who thought this was madness, but that these are conversations that are being had in Myanmar on Facebook in sort of a public way. And of course all of the people that I spoke to personally were talking about this issue and what's going on Facebook and in Myanmar, but no one was actually for any atrocities that I personally spoke to, even though a lot of the people that I spoke to from a variety of different religions, Christians as well as Buddhists. But that's what I saw myself. When I was then in Bagan, I actually didn't see any people who were obviously Muslims. I didn't see any Muslim garb or things like that. What I mainly witnessed with Muslims and interacting with other people and in the region was definitely in Yangon. And in Yangon, it's a very diverse city with people from lots of different religions and lots of different cultures living together, seemingly without any sort of an issue. So it was really shocking, different than what I saw on the news. Aside from my nervousness when crossing the border, which was just me, I felt very safe when I was there. And of course, by the way, I have tourist privilege in the sense that I know that because I am a tourist, I'm not from there. Of course, I'm going to be treated differently. I'm also not a Muslim person. I don't wear a Muslim attire, so maybe I'm also treated differently because of that. So I can't say what someone who, I can't say what everyone's experience would be like when traveling to Myanmar, when going through Burma, but this is what I witnessed with my eyes, what I saw when I was there. And I just wanted to share that with you and tell you about that experience because I'm getting asked about it a lot, and I felt like it was something that I needed to talk about and wanted to address because I was there and I'm not unaware of what's happening. My head isn't in the sand, and I do care and I'm concerned about what's going on. And so that's it. I just wanted to share with you what I saw, and that's it. And stay tuned. There's more to come from Myanmar and from Burma, and in general. So that's all I've got.